Roll call for the City Council meeting of Wednesday, May 17th, 2023 at 7:30 p.m. Mr. Nelson, Mr. Brzezinski, Ms. Faulkner, Ms. Flores, Mr. Keys, Mr. Troop. Mr. Witherspoon is absent.
It's on a silent meditation, but I want to point out the City Hall lost our grant writer this week, or last week, Abby Skinner. So keep her in your thoughts and prayers. Take a moment for silence.
Dear Heavenly Father, we come before you first of all thankful and grateful that you allowed us to assemble in these chambers and that it's a beautiful spring day and the sun is shining. We just thank you for letting us be here and give us the strength and the power to make good decisions on the behalf of the residents and the citizens of Erie. We ask you to touch those who are in mourning, the family of Abby Skinner, the family of the young man who was killed yesterday, and all the other ones that went unnoticed. So we just ask that you comfort all those who have mourned, that you send your spirit, send your help to them, and that we also remember those who are the least of us and the least fortunate. We ask this in your name, we pray. Amen.
Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Motion to accept the minutes from the May 3rd City Council meeting and bills for payment on May 19th, 26th, and June 2nd. Mr. Brzezinski, Ms. Faulkner, Ms. Flores, Mr. Keys, Mr. Troop, Mr. Nelson.
We have a presentation today from Ms. Faulkner to Nikin and Margarita Dangle for their leadership on the New American Council.
Could Nikin and Margarita please come to the front podium?
And any dinosaurs with them?
And a dinosaur. All right. First, for Margarita Dangle. Resolved by the Council of the City of Erie. Whereas, Margarita Dangle has been instrumental in the founding and continuation of the New American Council to improve community relations and quality of life for refugees, New Americans, and immigrants. Whereas, Margarita Dangle served her career with the Benedictine Sisters of Erie and the Sisters of St. Joseph Neighborhood Network, offering tact and kindness from her home in Germany. Whereas the City of Erie has grown in capacity to better serve immigrants, a dynamic, growing portion of the population. Whereas Margarita Dangle has demonstrated excellent citizenship and commitment to the progress of the City of Erie. Now, therefore, Erie City Council commends Margarita Dangle on this 17th of May for their leadership, insight, and compassion in service to and in solidarity with the City of Erie's immigrant communities. Nikin Astari Carpenter. Resolved by the Council of the City of Erie, whereas Nikin Astari Carpenter has been instrumental in the founding and continuation of the New American Council to improve community relations and quality of life for refugees, New Americans, and immigrants. Whereas Nikin Astari Carpenter served 5 years as New American Liaison and Executive Assistant to the Erie Mayor, Joseph Schember, bringing wisdom and empathy from her home in Indonesia. Whereas the City of Erie has grown in capacity to better serve immigrants, a dynamic and growing portion of our population. Whereas Nikin Astari Carpenter has demonstrated excellent citizenship and commitment to the progress of the City of Erie. Now, therefore, Erie City Council commends Nikin Astari Carpenter on the 17th of May for their leadership, insight, and compassion in service to and in solidarity with the City of Erie's immigrant communities.
Thank you. Do we have anyone here for repository sales? That's such a come down moment. After everyone claps, and I have to ask about repository sales.
Mr. Lennox.
Yes, yes. Hey, and one more thing to recognize. I was going to do that during my end report, but one more thing to recognize. Last week, the Erie County Bar Association recognized on Law Day our Lieutenant Lennox for the Diversity Award this year. So big celebration to him as well as we offer that presentation to our former staff member as well. So round of applause to him as well.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone here for repository sales? Anyone here for repository sales? And with that, it brings us to public comments. Anyone here for public comments?
My name is Freda Tepfer. I live at 1738 West 23rd Street. I want to first remind anybody who is on Medicaid that we're in a period where people have to renew their Medicaid. It's not automatic, and they should go to the state Compass website and ensure that the state has their most current contact information so that they can be contacted when it's time for them to renew. This is really extremely important. I want to remind the city that they did pass an ordinance related to how reader boards are to be managed, and that's a good thing. They can be very visually disturbing. Last night I saw kind of a strobe light show in a building immediately south of the building that houses the Democratic headquarters. The lights were flashing. I sent you a video, Chuck, so you can know what I'm talking about. I'll share it with anybody else on the council. As somebody, one of many people subject to visual disturbance, it is not appropriate to have that kind of flashing lights and that kind of speed and pattern in a public location. It can cause people to have seizures. And I would like the city to make sure that that's not an allowable thing. It's really a health concern. Once again, I'm going to urge the city to please do something about how they manage pedestrian access during construction. There should be an ordinance to require any project that is going to close the sidewalk for more than a week to pay to close the sidewalk as a disincentive for prolonged sidewalk closures, and also to have requirements that unless there's a good reason that they should provide alternative sidewalk pedestrian access, as has the Erie Downtown Development Corporation. Erie Insurance is a big offender of extended sidewalk closures. The Catholic Church and Cathedral Prep on 10th and Sass. Still, I think it's been over 2 years that the church has been closing the sidewalk, and there's no reason there can't be a sidewalk bypass. There's a new apartment building going up on 8th Street between Myrtle and Sass. They could provide alternative sidewalk access into 8th Street, and this is how a civilized city ensures safe access for their pedestrian. There's many people who use downtown, who use mobility devices, who are blind and visually impaired or who just want to get around, who should have unimpeded access. And again, pretextual traffic stops. Also, I think the city needs to join the many cities who are looking at creative ways to manage concerns over headlights, or not headlights, but backlights out, or an expired license plate, or any of those things that end up in a traffic stop that could lead to an unfortunate situation. I haven't heard of too much of that happening in Erie, but I don't want to hear about it. And there are ways, taking pictures and sending people tickets, or there's other creative ways. I hope the city finds a way around that kind of situation. And lastly, I'd like to remind the city they should be looking at how to have a traffic mitigation ordinance before we get too many large projects like the IRG, which is going to bring hundreds of trucks into the city. We should have a traffic mitigation ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, Freda. Any other citizens to be heard?
Good evening, John Spalding, President of Perry Highway Hose Company. Here to address council today on some EMS issues. Mark Schleppe is with me. He's going to hand out a packet of information so that you can look at it at your leisure. As you may very well be aware, the EMS in Erie County and across the state of Pennsylvania is not in a good state. We are in a state of crisis because of a lack of volunteers, lack of people wanting to even be paid for doing the job. Some of it is low wages. What brings me to the council today is Perry Highway's large number of mutual aid calls into the city of Erie. From July 1st, 2022 up until April 30th, we've been called into the city of Erie to handle calls 157 times. We've had many of those calls handled. 112 we've actually transported the patient and handled the call in its entirety. In the packet I have listed every month by date and location where those assists have been at, so that you can follow through. Comes directly from the 911 center. You can confirm that with them if you wish, but all the data is there for you. So far this year, the dedicated emergency responder for ambulance in the city of Erie, which is EmergiCare, has had 408 calls that they could not answer, and other departments have had to come in and answer for them. Multiple different reasons for that. Could be a very busy time, could be low staffing. I can't answer for all of those. I'm not here to bash anybody, just to bring information to you. But 408 calls means that another agency outside the city had to come in and provide service to the city of Erie. Now, that comes at a cost. In your packet, you'll see the cost for Perry Highway for 2022 for answering an emergency call was an average of $492.74. National average is slightly higher, and EmergiCare is higher at $545.87. That comes directly from their website. So some may say, well, when we come into the city and transport, that gives us the ability to bill the patient, bill the person that we transported. Well, I also included information in here about monies collected versus monies billed out. Just because we can send a bill doesn't mean that we get paid. So in your packet, you'll see that for July, we billed out $9,081, got paid $1,372, or an average of $124 per call. Remember, our average is $492 to break even. The data that I run from July 22 through October 22 with our billing company. We had 50 total runs that we billed out to the city for city runs, $48,080.10, of which we got $11,520.85, or just a mere $230.42 average. So every time we come into the city of Erie, we're losing money. We're losing money. And that's the crux of the matter here is, you know, we need help from the city, be it having dialogue with EmergiCare, making sure that they have the resources they need to supply EMS service to the city, or when instances that other people have to come in to assist, that there is some financial support for that. Because the model that we're using now is bound to fail. It's a failed model. So you couldn't have any plumbers, electricians, or carpenters expected to survive by getting 30 cents on the dollar for billing for their services. And I conclude. Thank you.
The question to ask yourself is, why is there a 44% child poverty rate? Everyone acts concerned about the poverty rate and the violence that is happening in our city. But
Sorry, can you give your name, full name,
Asa Burgos,
and address?
619 Tacoma Road.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
But there is a $2.1 million youth fund that is just sitting there. I am one of those kids myself that was raised in poverty. Our kids are our future, and we need to stop talking and start acting upon what we say. Once this money is passed, there could be 300 families that could be lifted out of poverty. Stop saying that you care about our kids when your actions do not show it. Building a juvenile unit in the middle of downtown does not show that you care about our kids. That shows that you want our bad kids locked up, which is a target of the kids that live in poverty. A lot of people lost trust within our police department. Going into the neighborhoods and playing with the kids does not mean that they are building relationships. The same kids that are playing with the kids are the same ones that are getting arrested at the age of 12 because they are trying to provide for their families when they are living in poverty. While they play with those kids, they should be addressing the concerns that they have and not making themselves look good. Instead of being so quick on responding with aggression, be quicker to listen. If you are not going to fight for our kids, then the next generation will. There is no reason why there is a 44% child poverty rate when we have the ability physically and financially to stop this from happening. The senseless crimes that is happening is so unacceptable and out of control. There was someone that was just murdered last night at a convenience store. There is a woman that is suffering the loss of her child and has to bear of burying him. No parent should want to do that. On July 24th will be the 8th year anniversary of my cousin who was shot and murdered at the age of 16. When is enough going to be enough? No matter how long it has been, it never gets easier. I do not wish this upon anyone or the pain that goes along with it. The mental health in our community is not taken seriously. A lot of crimes that are committed are by the people who are emotionally and mentally unstable. There are so many people who do not know how to handle their emotions or a positive and effective way. There are so many kids within a school, but there is barely not enough counselors to help them. The teachers can only do so much, and most do not have the support at home. So now we are left with the kids feeling alone and unheard. As an advocate for our youth, our Erie High School students have a lot to say when I speak to them. There is no reason why there are police officers throughout the entire school, but yet there are still fights that are happening, and the students are the ones that are stopping the fights. The police decide that they're going to come after the fights are already broken up by the students. Respect goes both ways. Let's start holding ourselves accountable for the things that go wrong. The students say they put all the high schools together was the worst thing that could have ever happened. The violence is so bad that they do not feel safe, and the lockdowns are starting to become too familiar for them. A lot of them say that they are waiting to get out of high school and that they are waiting for a mass shooting to happen in Erie, Pennsylvania because of the things that are happening now. Getting your education should be an experience that should be positive, not wanting the schools to be locked down and them hiding in a classroom. Mr. Troop sees the struggles every day that the kids face, but it has been said that he does nothing about it. I understand that he is one person and he can only do so much, but once you start being an advocate for your students, maybe they will have a lot more trust in you. The students there just want to get out of school by either dropping out or even just getting their diploma, but they do not want to have that encouraging goal to further their education. Why would any of them want to further their education if they're not getting the drive to want to now as a high school student? Though I was raised in poverty, I was fortunate enough to be a graduate from Gannon University. It was not easy. It was not an easy experience. There was a point of time where I wanted to give up myself. I did not want to go through college, but I had those people that pushed me to go further. There is a cycle that we need to break, and this is the poverty and the violence that is happening in our city. Like I said, if you care about our kids the way you claim, then let's start working as a team and show that we care, that you care. Actions speak louder than words, and the words at this point mean nothing. Stop playing these stupid back and forth games with our kids and the families who need support. If you really care about the poverty rate, the crime rate, and the mental health that is happening, the $2.1 million youth fund would not be just sitting there. Do something about it.
All right. Hey, just a reminder not to address council members specifically when offering your statements.
Hi, Tia Epps, 2517 German Street. And just following up on what Asa was saying, I'm also a child who grew up in poverty in this city. And between 2005 and 2019, the child poverty rate in Erie has gone up 20%. That's a big portion of my life. So me growing up and seeing things getting worse and worse and seeing that there needs to be a big progressive change. These little things that we're doing is not enough. We need a universal basic income program in Erie because, a UBI pilot program has shown to alleviate the trifecta of racism, poverty, and violence. Over the past 14 years, there has not been a substantial policy passed to address the root causes of violence. As a child suffering from poverty during this period, I can say no child should live this way. This is unacceptable and is a direct result of the lack of responsibility among elected officials to take bold action to invest in the communities of color. Each day it takes for action is another day a child is starving or a victim of the school-to-prison pipeline. Our city, our children cannot wait any longer. Instead of investing in a juvenile detention center, which is just going to only push kids in the school-to-prison pipeline, or new gentrification projects such as the East Side Renaissance and the downtown development, let's invest directly in our communities. The administration must take immediate, urgent, and necessary action by funding a UBI pilot with the $2.1 million Youth Investment Fund. Thank you.
Good evening, City Council. My name is Savannah Wilson. I live on 820 Cranberry Street. First, I want to congratulate all of the candidates that won City Council and School Board yesterday. I can only pray those who won will use their power to enforce positive change in our city. Next, I want to acknowledge the two young men that lost their lives in the past week. The young man yesterday who passed away was killed at Quickville by gun violence, and Jerron Ricker was a student at Erie High that I frequently saw in the hallways. He also played on Erie High's football team. Not another life of two black men gone and impacting our city. My prayers go out to his family and friends that lost their loved ones. For the past month, I was out canvassing for candidates after working 8-hour shifts overnight, because this is how important this is to me. And I'm highly disappointed in the candidates that did not show up to the Democratic debate. I want to give a personal shout out to Susanna Faulkner and the other candidates that did show up to the Democratic debate and really showed and shared their vision of what they wanted to do with Erie. It made my job a lot easier going on doors and giving people the hope and prayers that they need in order to want to get out and vote. You can celebrate all the wins that you want, but the matter of fact that is young black people are dying in the hands of gun violence, and people are smothered by poverty. And there fails to be any real leadership to take place on these issues. Our community has no political education. They don't see the importance of voting, nor do people feel like their votes matter. A part of me intuitively understands that the plan from the beginning is to not educate people on voting, which leads to nobody voting, and nobody voting for candidates that actually show up for the community, that have a plan and have a vision for what they want to do with the city of Erie. Half of the city is leaving is left in the norms of what should be done in the city. You're making my job a lot harder than what it is. It shouldn't be pulling teeth to get people out here to vote. It shouldn't be pulling teeth to be getting people to inspired to tell what their voice and their opinions are matters. We have a lot of issues in this city. We have a lot of trauma in this city alone. And what are we going to do? Like, I feel like every week I have to come up here and I have to say the same things over and over and over, and it's frustrating. I'm tired of refreshing my Facebook page and seeing another one of my classmates dead or another community member dead from gun violence, people struggling in poverty. I'm tired of it. I'm sick of it. What are the people that are elected going to do? What are you going to do? That's what I want to know. Anyways, there's a lot of unresolved issues, like I said. They keep getting swept under the rug. Erie can't wait. We must take action. It's inflicting our people, and it might not be inflicting the people that you love, but it's inflicting the people in our communities. Our people. The voters decided. They know who they want, but our people are not educated on why it's important to vote. Our students are not registered to vote. We're not getting told the importance of voting. There's serious issues going on. We need to do something about it. Most importantly, it could help save young lives that could have been saved. Could have been saved. Not another one of my classmates, school members, getting buried. Not another one of our community members getting killed by gun violence. When is this going to stop? Or are we going to keep having these conversations? Keep going back and forth? Because I'm tired of it. I'm really sick of it. We have a lot of potential here in Erie with creatives and people that actually see a vision. We need to invest into these people. We need to invest into our downtown. I was just at Perry Park talking to a young man there that works for True Green, and we were talking and we were having a productive conversation. These people, they care. They need somebody to see them, and they need a way out, because we're not offering that. We're not.
Thank you.
Evening, Council, Mr. Mayor. My name is Andrew Blackburn. My address is on the sign-in sheet. I am a real estate agent. The last time I was here, I spoke to the need to add reasonable regulations to the Airbnb ordinance. But now that that ordinance has passed, I wanted to talk about real estate trends generally, maybe come back to the Airbnb issue at a further date. According to Realtor.com, Erie is now the fastest selling metro in the entire United States. So there are some long-term trends that I believe for our Erie area that will present a big opportunity for our area. The first is that older folks are holding on to their homes longer than in periods in the past. I can't really blame them. They are utilizing home health aides so that they can avoid going into retirement homes. This is a great thing, but it does keep demand higher than it has previously been. It used to be that, you know, people as they got older would sell their homes to younger generations, and that's happening less. The second thing is that there's a trend towards smaller families now, which means that even if your population isn't growing, your demand for housing is growing. These are everything from empty nesters, single parents, couples that have maybe 1 or 0 kids. And the last thing that's really a long-term trend is climate risk. I met a family at an open house from California This family had never heard of Erie, Pennsylvania until recently. They decided to leave California because their daughter had to flee her college during the Paradise, California wildfires a few years ago. And they had had basically enough. They decided that they wanted to live in the Great Lakes, and so they researched and they decided on Erie and a couple other small cities that would be attractive to live in. We've seen wildfire season has expanded in most areas of the western United States. Some areas now have a fire season that is the entire year. Drought areas of the western U.S. have been in drought conditions for a decade. Tornado Alley, which is typically like Oklahoma, Texas, Kansas, that is expanding. And hurricanes still regularly hit the East Coast. For example, the state of Florida in 2022 is now requiring flood insurance for every resident in the state of Florida, and that is because of the flood risk. Erie Insurance used to operate in Florida but pulled out for these same reasons. Erie is well positioned to receive people moving here from any area that is dealing with climate risks. We have a mild climate that is getting milder. Our winters aren't so bad anymore. We have nearly unlimited freshwater resources during a time where freshwater is becoming more important. The worst natural disaster risk we have is probably tornadoes, but that's still relatively low. Risk of hurricanes, droughts, and fires is very low compared to the rest of the United States. And those are some of the long-term trends that I believe will keep Erie real estate moving quickly and property values moving higher. Thank you.
Any other citizens to be heard? Any other citizens to be heard? Any other citizens to be heard? That concludes public comment. Yeah, come on, hurry up. Now I gotta say it 3 times again. Do I say it 3 times again? I'm good? All right. All right, ordinances for final passage.
Ordinances for final passage. Council file number 16348, official ordinance 23-2023, an ordinance appropriating the sum of $3,500,000 from unappropriated and unanticipated revenue to provide for the expenditure thereof for the State Street Streetscape Project. Funding is from the Redevelopment Assistance Capital Program, RACP grant. Sponsored by Mr. Troop, seconded by Ms. Flores. The council file ordinance bill number 16348, and now known as official file ordinance 23-2023, be finally passed by City Council. Mr. Brzezinski, Ms. Faulkner, Ms. Flores, Mr. Keys, Mr. Troop, Mr. Nelson. City Council passed official file ordinance number 20-2023 by yeas 6, nays 0. Council file number 16349, official ordinance 24-2023, an ordinance amending 112909A of the Quality of Life Ticketing Ordinance to amend and restating fines and penalties. Sponsored by Mr. Nelson, seconded by Ms. Flores. The council file bill number 16349, and now known as official file ordinance 24-2023, be finally passed by City Council. Mr. Brzezinski, Ms. Faulkner, Ms. Flores, Mr. Keys, Mr. Troop, Mr. Nelson. City Council passed official file ordinance 24-2023 by yeas 6, nays 0.
If you take 1 second to pause, to the realtor that spoke during citizens to be heard, these are the regulations that you were here for the zoning portion that you discussed last time you were here. These are the regulation portions coming up. Thank you.
Council file number 16350, official ordinance 25-2023, an ordinance amending Article 330, Sections 330.02, 03, 07, and 11 to incorporate short-term rentals into its rental registration and licensing program, to revise the registration period, fees, and insurance requirements for all residential rentals, and to establish fines for failure to register. Sponsored by Mr. Nelson, seconded by Ms. Flores, that council file ordinance bill number 16350, and now known as official file ordinance 25-2023, be finally passed by City Council. Mr. Brzezinski, Ms. Faulkner, Ms. Flores, Mr. Keys, Mr. Troop, Mr. Nelson. City Council passed official file ordinance 25-2023 by yeas 6, nays 0. Ordinances for first reading. Council file number 16351, an ordinance appropriating the sum of $15,000 from unappropriated and unanticipated revenue for the expenditure thereof. Contribution is from the Mercy Terrace Apartments for the purchase of police, fire, and winter maintenance equipment. Sponsored by Ms. Faulkner, seconded by Mr. Keys. The council file ordinance bill number 16351, having been read, is hereby adopted on first reading by City Council. Mr. Brzezinski, Ms. Faulkner, Ms. Flores, Mr. Keys, Mr. Troop, Mr. Nelson. City Council read and adopt council file ordinance 16351 by yeas 6, nays 0 on first reading. Council file number 16352, an ordinance amending Article 117 to update the administrative branch of city government to make the Chief of the Bureau of Police and the Chief of the Bureau of Fire directors in the absence of a Public Safety Director, to create a Department of Human Resources and to create a Department of Communications. Sponsored by Ms.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'll need some help on this with the Roberts rules. We were going to discussed in caucus, make an amendment to it. So we are looking to strike the portions amending 11704, 08, and 09. Do we put that to a vote before to strike that for now, or table those portions for now?
Yeah, I would say you just would table those portions, or just say you're going to pass the amendments only to 117.03.
Okay, so we're
That's-
only passing the amendments to 117.03. We're leaving, at this point, the communications staff in the office of the mayor, accordance to ordinance 113, and we'd be leaving the office or the Bureau of Human Resources in the Department of Finance and Administration as 117.04. So we are only updating 117.03 on this reading. Thank you.
Okay, amending 117 to update the administrative branch of city government to make the Chief of the Bureau of Police and Chief of the Bureau of Fire directors in the absence of a Public Safety Director. Sponsored by Mr. Nelson, seconded by Ms. Flores, the council file ordinance number 16352, having been read as amended, is hereby adopted on first reading by City Council. Mr. Brzezinski, Ms. Faulkner, Ms. Flores, Mr. Keys, Mr. Troop, Mr. Nelson. City Council read and adopt council file ordinance 16352 as amended by yeas 6, nays 0 on first reading. Okay, in old business, we have a resolution sponsored by Mr. Keys, seconded by Ms. Flores. The Council of the City of Erie, the city solicitor is authorized and directed to prepare an ordinance rezoning 3 parcels identified as 1851-73-103, 1851-74-101, and 1851-74-102, located south of East 33rd Street between McClellan Avenue and Bird Drive, from C2, which is general commercial, to R1, which is low-density residential, at the request of Vendetti Brothers Associates. Discussion? Voting on the resolution, Mr. Brzezinski, Ms. Faulkner, Ms. Flores, Mr. Keys, Mr. Troop, Mr. Nelson. Motion passes, yea 6, nays 0. A second resolution in old business, that upon the initiative of City Council and the recommendation of the Planning Commission, the city solicitor is authorized and directed to prepare an ordinance rezoning parcel number 1851 73107 from C3 to C2 to correct a previous zoning map error. The C3 district is reserved for the downtown central business district only. The rezoning of the parcel will also be a logistical extension of the surrounding adjacent C2 district. Any discussion? Voting on the resolution, Mr. Brzezinski, Ms. Faulkner, Ms. Flores, Mr. Keys, Mr. Troop, Mr. Nelson. Resolution passes yeas 6, nays 0. This takes us to new business.
Oh, Mel's not here, sorry. Motion to move the balance of the budget, or the balance of the agenda.
Motion to move the balance.
Any separations?
I'd like to do 3 through 5.
You got 5 down?
In new business?
Oh, and 7, sorry. Ooh,
Can I add 6 to that too, please?
3 through 6. 3 through 7 total.
So I have number
Oh, you already did 4 through whatever, okay.
3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Any other separations? Okay, motion to move the balance of the agenda, moving the balance of the agenda. Mr. Nelson, Mr. Brzezinski, Ms. Faulkner, Ms. Flores, Mr. Keys, Mr. Troop. We have a resolution sponsored by Mr. Nelson, seconded by Mr. Keys. The City Council of the City of Erie, a resolution sponsored by Council President Nelson appointing Laura Gunchin of 2168 West 38th Street, Erie, PA, to the Environmental Advisory Council. Ms. Gunchin's term will expire 12/31/25. Discussion?
Could probably just keep 3 through 5 together to some extent. But I just wanted to point out that this is the Environmental Advisory Committee that was established. The first reading for that ordinance was in December. So we're 6 months now since that was first read, and then it was passed at our first meeting of January. So I'm really excited to see that moving forward. A little bit sorry as we established it, that it took so long to get going, but I'm really excited about there's going to be 7 seats there is 7 seats on this committee, and council will be filling 4 of them. The administration has 3, and as you see on the agenda, we've got 3 of our 4 filled with some really highly qualified people. I'm excited about what this does for our community. So I'm speaking to the extent of Laura, but I think some of the other people may want to say something about their folks.
Are we voting 3, 4, 5 as
Yeah, if you
one?
put 3, 4, 5 together on the vote.
Councilmember Keys is appointing John Michael Campbell of 4105 French Street, and Mr. Brzezinski is appointing Freda Tepfer of 1738 West 23rd Street. Any discussion?
Freda will definitely keep everybody's pedal to the metal. We're proud to have her.
And Mr. Campbell is a professor in environmental sciences at Mercyhurst University. He'll be a credit to this council.
Okay, voting on
I'd like
resolution.
to echo Ed's words, because congratulations to Freda. She's here every week, staying on our butts and on everybody's butts, keeping us aware. I do have to say it's the word I'm looking for. I kind of admire you for that, so thanks for doing that.
It's well deserved, Freda. You deserve it.
Okay, voting on the resolutions. Mr. Brzezinski, Ms. Faulkner, Ms. Flores, Mr. Keys, Mr. Troop, and Mr. Nelson. All resolutions pass yeas 6, nays 0. A resolution sponsored by Ms. Faulkner appointing Kevin E. Pastuca of 722 East Grand View to the Towing Review Board. His term will expire 12/31/2026. Discussion?
I'm grateful for Mr. Pastuca for stepping up. The towing board always isn't the most exciting thing, but it's something, just like so many other facets of local government, we absolutely need. He has a lifetime career as an educator, as a coach, and is serving in the community with our local Democratic Party. So I look forward to serving together on that board.
Voting on the resolution? Mr. Brzezinski, Ms. Faulkner, Ms. Flores, Mr. Keys, Mr. Troop, Mr. Nelson. Resolution passes yeas 6, nays 0.
Do you want to say anything about 7 and Bell United? All right, number 7 is the designation of Bishop Gavin Way. He is a real pillar of our community. He's going to be retiring at the end of summer as a pastor at Greater Calvary, and so we're hoping to have this all in place as a nice little retirement gift to him as he moves on from his career of serving in ministry in our city. So, thank you, Bishop Gavin.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, I just also would like to thank Bishop Gavin for his service. He, as he was the regional bishop for the full gospel, and he's has been an asset to our community for many years. So congratulations.
Most definitely a good guy. Well deserved.
Any other discussion? Voting on the
It's well deserved. I will agree with everybody else up here. He's been knowing me for a long time, and his son was a fellow musician of mine, so this holds a special place for me as well. Congratulations.
This is sponsored by President Nelson, authorized and directed to designate the corner of East 27th and German as Bishop Gavin Way in recognition of his many contributions. Mr. Brzezinski, Ms. Faulkner, Ms. Flores, Mr. Keys, Mr. Troop, Mr. Nelson. Resolution passes yeas 6, nays 0. Mr. President, this takes us to committee reports.
Let's start with Ms. Faulkner so that everybody has a real high standard to follow.
Okay, last week for the police department, there were 1,153 calls for service. This included multiple stabbings and a shooting. So these are statistics that we receive every week, and in my role as public safety committee chair, it's always disheartening to see in a reality that we have to continually deal with. Last week in good news, the Erie Police Department Crisis Car Unit launched. This is with 6 officers for 24/7 care for mental health crises, domestic violence situations, and substance use. I give extra thanks to the coordinators within the police department as well as all of the partner organizations in the community. They had a week-long training with various crisis service, mental health service organizations to really prepare the officers as best as possible, and many of them also have backgrounds in social work or psychology. And I'm continually with my monthly meetings with the Erie Police Department leadership. That happens on the first Wednesday, which is also a morning council day, and then I meet with EPD leadership in the afternoon. In terms of fire, last week there were 171 incidents, and next week I will be doing a tour of their facilities. Very much looking forward to that. As we've heard a lot about EMS, and it's been a huge conversation, last week I had the opportunity with President Nelson to meet with the President and Executive Director of Emergicare just to understand more their budget, their service model, some of the issues that they're dealing with, and how we can move forward more collaboratively at a city and a county level to ensure that we are facing this EMS crisis, which is felt throughout the state and throughout the nation in the best way possible. Next, yesterday, on a very busy day, I attended the Sewer Authority meeting, and I'm doing a tour there next week. All is moving along very well with them and wrapping up some major capital improvement projects. Tomorrow I'll be attending the Water Authority meeting and just getting another update for them. They're also in the middle of many capital improvement projects and nearing the end on several of those, as I'm sure a lot of us have seen the Sassafras Street and the Bayfront Connector. That's about to open. Lastly, last week I was able to attend the New American Council meeting, which was a wonderful learning experience. It's not part of my duties or assignments on council, but I think it's so critical that we always take opportunities to learn as much as possible about a growing and dynamic part of our population. There was a special conversation on immigration law, which I thought was particularly pertinent with lots of legal changes and battles that our New American community members are facing this year, especially going into this fall. And I think that's it.
Thanks, Mr. President. I just want to say that poverty doesn't have to be something that you can't succeed even though you're growing up in poverty. I myself grew up in poverty, single mother with 6 kids, living in public housing. My mother didn't allow that to sink into our hearts. She did not allow that to sink into our hearts as a reason for us to fail. So I just want to say that poverty doesn't have to be something that you can use to say, I'm going to fail because I'm in poverty. You can still make it growing up in poverty. We talk about, and I want to say, my condolences to those families out there who are dealing with the loss of people in shootings. But on the other side of that, I recently watched a great spring concert that the students at Collegiate Academy put on. I watched a great talent show that the students at Erie High School put on. I watched Erie High's baseball team win some baseball games. I watched the track kids show up after school every day. So let's not just focus on the kids that are getting in trouble. Remember the kids who aren't getting in trouble also. I work at Erie High School. 8 out of 10 kids there are great kids, and they don't get in trouble. Let's not forget those kids. Let's not say these kids. It's not all the kids. Yes, we do have our issues with some of these kids, but let's not paint a broad brush that all of our kids are bad kids. They're not. Even the ones that are getting in trouble, I work with them every day. We love them just as much as we love the kids that are doing what we want them to do. We need programs to help both kids. We need programs for kids who are in trouble and programs for kids who aren't in trouble so we can keep them on that path. Frederick Douglass said it's easier to build strong youth than to repair broken men and women. So the youth are right. I'm proud to see the youth that came down here today. One of them was actually one of my former students. I also want you guys to remember that there's 3 weeks left in school. Summer's coming. I want to commend all the educators throughout the city, whether it's public school, private school, youth, whatever capacity they're in. I do want to commend the teachers that I work with every day in the public school system, because in the public school system, you don't get to pick and choose who comes into your building. You work with everybody, all the kids, not tested in or anything like that. You work with anybody who shows up. And I got to commend those teachers that come to school every day, and the educators and teachers that come in every day and give everything they have every single day of the year. It's not an easy job. I've seen people come in and quit in 2 weeks. So to see them come and show up every day, I have a lot of respect for those people. So I want to end once again and say, because I was a poverty kid myself, it doesn't have to be the excuse to let you be a failure in life. You can still succeed despite being in poverty. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. Keys.
Mr. Keys has no report.
Ms. Flores.
Hello, everyone. I had a blighted property meeting on May 10th. There are properties that are slowly being taken care of as funding is available to them. So a few nuisance properties did get covered. Well, one specific nuisance property got coverage last week on the news from a neighborhood that had neighbors very vocal to get it taken care of. So that's good. As we get funding, we will take care of the blighted properties. These are properties that were just left behind and no one followed through on the maintenance, and deferred maintenance can be something that is devastating to a property. We have a EMTA meeting on May 22nd at 4 p.m. That is through Zoom. If you would like access, I recommend that you email the EMTA contact link on the EMTA website, because you do have to get access to those Zoom meetings. We are currently in the process of trying to get a study session put together with a few of the players for internet access around our city to update our community members on what access they have, whether it be broadband, fiber, or any black zones that currently do not have internet at all. Once we have more information, we will update the community on that. With the warmer weather coming, it brings out the mini bikes and the motorcycles, and I just want people to be very conscientious. If it's a stop sign, it's not a recommendation. We recommend that people follow the traffic laws. I see many people blowing through stop signs and red lights. We had a very horrible accident last weekend where there were individuals on a motorbike and a vehicle collided. I'm not quite sure the status of the two who were involved, but if you're on a bike, you're already at risk. So just follow the laws. A car is very powerful, and sometimes people are distracted on their cell phones. So I just want us to have a safe summer. When the summer happens, we get a lot of people who get a little reckless. Drinking and driving is an issue that we see. So I just want us to be precautious and proactive with it warming up and do our parts to protect each other. Thank you.
Mr. Brzezinski.
Yeah, my turn. I guess first I'd like to ask the mayor to bring some closure to those folks on Green Garden. Cars can park, bicycles can go down the path. That's all they want. They just want to be able to have a car in front of the house if somebody's visiting. If a landscaper is cutting the grass, he can park the truck there for a short time. There's a whole bunch of garbage going on. Folks are upset. I mean, people made homemade signs all the way up and down Green Garden. And I've traveled it purposely, more than normal, just to count the cars, from 38th to 26th. And the most I've ever seen at a given time of day was 4. 2 here, 2 on the other side, someplace like that. It's not an issue. The folks can live with the bikes they've had for a long time. And to bounce them around the way we've been bouncing them around, Joe, is totally wrong. So please, let's bring some closure to it by the next meeting, or we'll try to do an ordinance or something to make it stop. I still don't know how you're going to get those bikes from 26th Street down to the Bayfront. Green Garden gets smaller, faster, railroad tracks, trucks. It's really a bigger problem down there. After 22nd Street, there's basically no houses. Much ado about nothing. And the way our folks were treated at that one public meeting was a total disgrace. I've never seen our public treated that way. But I'll get off the soapbox on that. Blue coats, way to go. And hats off to Mr. Troop. Boy, I advocate with you 100%. I'll be with you anytime we want to give a hand up, not a handout. Poverty is not an excuse. Believe it or not, I was a poor kid too. I was brought up in 4th and Wallace. I know what it was like. My mother had a great love for education, so she sent me to prep. But I was one of those kids that didn't have money in his pocket when he went there. That's a whole different world. But I did get an education, and that's the key to get out of poverty. So hands up, and I 100% behind what Mr. Troop said. Thank you and good night.
All right, as far as my report today, it's a lot of numbers stuff for me this last 2 weeks. I gave an update last council meeting about what the city could do with some of its banking stuff. Did a lot more homework on that, and apparently the Pennsylvania Department of Treasury provides a program called Invest, where municipalities basically use it as a bank fund. Today, their interest rate is 4.947. So given that the city has over 100 million cash on hand, getting a near 5% interest rate would be a game changer compared to what we're getting now. This is so at this point, a lot of the research has been done. Lisa has been an all-star with that, and it's just a matter of making moves at this point and talking to the banks to see if they can come up with comparable interest rates so that we could stay invested in the regional economy as well. I also had meetings for pension and water reserve. Those are fun. We get a bunch of ridiculous financial experts to fly in from all over the world for those. We get Seth comes in every quarter and with his Yale and Wharton degrees and tells us how the money's working, and yeah, so updates on those with the Water Reserve Fund. We made a little bit of a transfer as seen in the agenda today to try to adjust to inflation and interest rates abroad, as well as some other situations in China and Russia. And then also went to the pension meetings where they considered many of the same things at even a larger scale. As Susanna had mentioned, New American Council, I was there with her. That was Nikin's last one. It was a nice way to send her off. So many, and I had some conversations, as the mayor has done some amazing things bringing together many of these committees as advisory committees to the mayor. Sometime in the next probably 6 years, it'd be great to get these codified so that we have them as an ongoing source. The Strengthening Police Community Partnership Committee, the New Americans, it would be great to have these codified by ordinance in some way so that as we see some of the pillars of the New American one step off today, it's really important to see those move forward in perpetuity. And I'm sure council will be happy to work with you to make sure that happens. And then as Susanna had pointed out, also a meeting with Emergicare last Friday, or maybe was it the Friday before? Yeah, last Friday. Sorry, it's been a long week. And then as Ed had noted with the Green Garden, parking restrictions are set by ordinance. Some of the communications have been done poorly on that, but the solicitor confirms that that is, that we do have that okay right now. So as long as we don't move, things are okay for them.
So folks can finally relax, you're telling me?
I've been telling them that for a couple weeks, and the solicitor confirmed.
They need to hear it again, so.
In spite of any communication or
Super.
miscommunication. And then the last thing I'd like to say is congrats, Ed. Looks like we're working, well, it looks like we are most likely working together next year. So congratulations. And it looks like you get
Find
two
out-
votes next year? I think
Find
that's how
out in
that works.
November.
So as long as November works out for him, then he gets to vote twice next year. I'm not sure that's legal, but we'll figure it out between now
We
and then.
won't get 2 votes, but council will have the opportunity to choose the appointment for the 2-year.
Okay. So that concludes my report. Do we have anything from, all right, from the solicitor?
Nothing from the solicitors.
Mr. Mayor.
Thanks. Just a couple things real quick. One is the police crisis car that you mentioned was, it's in service now. The police that have been on duty for quite a while that are running that, there's 2 police in that around the clock. So there's 3 8-hour shifts that take place. And their job is really to do things that we haven't been doing for probably about the last 30 years because we've reduced the size of the police department so far. Every day in Erie, we have 15 to 20 incidents of home violence going on a day. And 30 years ago, there was follow-up because there was enough police officers, and they kept it more under control than it is right now. So that's one of the main things these police officers that we just put on. I mean, they're long-time officers. The new officers that we brought in to replace them took time to train and everything. But we're really happy to have these existing officers. They've had a lot of great training, and I'm sure they'll learn more as they work through this. The other major problem in the area is, I think someone has already mentioned too, is homelessness. And we have right now in the area about 150 people who have been homeless for a year or more, at least a year, 150. They're the ones we really want to focus on. Others that are on the street for a couple weeks or a couple months, you know, they get taken care of in a reasonable period of time at least. And one of the things we want to do is start a new facility, which would probably house 30 to 50 individuals that have been on the street for a year or more. And it's going to give them access to doctors and to others to counsel them. I think on the street there's a lot of mental illness that's there that's just ignored. Nothing ever happens with it. That's what will happen, as well as them having their own place to live and stay and, you know, be comfortable and be safe in. They'll also get help overcoming other mental incidents that they may have. So the last thing I want to mention is, I don't know if all of you know Sister Mary Miller, and she passed away, as you know. She was 81 years old, and she was in good health until about 4 weeks ago. And then all of a sudden she got sick, and in 3 weeks she was dead. What she did is incredible. I went to the service out there. That's why I wasn't here earlier than I was today. It was incredible what she did during her life, and we've really lost a very valuable person there in Sister Mary Miller. So, and I'll stop right there. Thank you.
I think the good Lord said, your job is done, sister. Come on up. She did a lot of good.
Yeah, she ran the Emrys Soup Kitchen, correct?
Correct, yes.
Correct, for a long time.
That's right.
Just one follow-up question on the facilities that's open for requests for qualifications right now. Was that what it was? I know it's moving along and there's some requests out there, but
For facility, I don't understand the question.
the facilities that you're talking about being built.
Oh, yes. Oh, they hope to have a location chosen within the next month.
Okay.
And it's probably not going to be totally built until early next year, the spring of next year,
Okay.
from what I've heard. Yep.
Mr. Mayor, do you have any information on, like, are there whole families living on the street, like homeless? Do we know anything about that, or?
Yes, there definitely are, and I know on West 16th Street, I can't remember the name of the Community Shelter Services. You know, they established a small residence, which is really nice inside, but it's very tiny. The people that moved in there were homeless. It was a husband, wife, and 2 kids that moved into that home. So that exists, unfortunately. Sure, no problem.
Usually do it like that, do we?
Mr. President, if I could say something else, I'd like to give a Good Neighbor Award out. The folks that took over the old Roosevelt building, they had put a fence up, and they didn't realize that people walk up to tops and use kind of a broken sidewalk, but use the sidewalk. Once they were made aware of that, they moved the fence, fixed up the sidewalk, and all these folks can now continue their walks because they don't drive. They walk up the tops and come back down that way. The neighborhood's ecstatic because they have a brand new sidewalk, and the kids are walking in the street because the fence, which they put up to protect people from falling. After they moved the fence in and they got onto the sidewalk and fixed it up, it really is nice. And that's a neighborhood working together. It's beautiful. I think we can thank Mrs. Benucci for keeping us aware of all those things that are going on over there. That's all I have. Thank you.
All right. Meeting is adjourned.
City Council adjourns at 8:41 p.m. Mr. Nelson, Mr. Brzezinski, Ms. Faulkner, Ms. Flores, Mr. Keys, Mr. Troop.